In the remote villages of Jharkhand, northern India, Malto tribal villagers battle preventable infectious diseases and suffer from high infant and mother mortality rates.
So many times they would come in the last minute after the patient was completely anemic, has lost blood, and in the last stage. And with my own eyes, I've seen so many Malto women breathe their last breath.
We realized people had a lot of false beliefs. Though I may know the recent trends of malaria, the challenge was getting it to their level.
When someone gets sick, they believe that it's because of the evil spirits, it's because someone has done sorcery. And so their first step would be to try and find out who that person is. And they would call them, in their term, Chedager. So they'll try to find who is the Chedager and punish that person. Sometimes they would even be killed.
I had this question when roaming around in the Malto Hills conducting clinics. Why on earth in this remote hilly area with no electricity, no transport facilities, roaming around for mobile clinics? In one such day when I was in a mobile clinic, when I had this question, I had an answer from God. My son, I have made you for this.
Dr. Isac and Dr. Vijila came to the Malto tribes of Jharkhand in 1996. Both of them had a common vision and a calling on their lives.
As a medical student, I had an affinity to cater to the needs of the poor people, as my dad himself grew up from a village. And as I came for my post-graduation to Odanjatram, the life of senior doctors touched me, and where I got involved in community health work among the tribal communities. In one of the tribal villages where I went for clinics, I had a TB patient who would come on and off for medications, and then for lack of continuity of treatment, he died eventually. That gave me an interest that I need to get involved in health awareness programs for such illiterate people in improving the health-seeking behavior.
From my early childhood, I've listened to so many missionary stories, and missionaries have come home and they would have their slideshow and tell us about the unreached people, their health needs and social problems. There are so many thousands of people who have not heard about Christ and who are dying for lack of help. That really moved my heart, and I felt that the best thing I could do with my life was to serve God in these unreached areas. So that decision came when I was 11.
The decision to obey God's call comes with a price. For Dr. Vijila, it had to do with questions regarding her marriage.
When you pray and turn down good proposals on the grounds that the person is, maybe even a believer, but does not have a vision for missions, it was a hard time for me, and often I got cross-questioned and blamed, and there was a lot of pressure. So at one point I finally had to take a stand and say whether I get married or not, the Lord has called me to the mission field, and I would go, married or single.
Though we were classmates, by the second year we could understand that we have a common vision and a call, and eventually we could get the help of our senior colleagues to figure out with prayer whether it was the will of God.
God brought Isaac into my life. It was this common vision that really pulled us together.
There were some issues when it came to marriage because of denominational barriers between both the families. But then when we both were clear that this was the will of God that we get united, when we talked to our parents about this calling, they could come to a common understanding, and we had an interdenominational wedding where it was a celebration of missions and denominations together.
Living and working among the Malto people had its own challenges. Illiteracy and superstitions were major hurdles that this young doctor couple had to overcome.
And when we started the work, the literacy rate of this community was only 4%. Hardly we could find any person graduating even up to 10th standard. As the health awareness was low and the health-seeking behavior was low, they would not go for any help when they have serious illnesses.
Especially for diarrhea, we found out that they have a concept known as kalvopallu, which means false tooth. So they believe that especially small children, as they're growing up, they develop this false tooth, and that is why they have diarrhea. And so they would take the child to someone who will push the false tooth inside. And so they just, when you talk about oral rehydration solution or antibiotics, they just can't, they believe it will not work.
Some of our senior friends suggested that we use tribal health songs, because in their culture they use health songs as a medium of spreading messages. Any song for that matter. So when we gave them health training, we would highlight the points on signs and symptoms, how the disease is spread and what are the control measures. So we would highlight these issues and ask them to compose a song. And most of the people would compose it fantastically, and then we would also insist on a very good tune that people catch it easily and sing it. So the first 5 songs, health songs, were composed by our local evangelists. Eventually Vijila started composing, and now we have 30 songs. And even when we go to the clinics, when children see the medical jeep approaching the village, they'll start the diarrhea song. And when they graze cattle in the fields, the children would be singing, and once they sing and by heart the songs, it's there in their heart forever. This helped us to get the health message across.
Even as they continued to persevere in their obedience to God's call, they faced various challenges in their personal lives.
One of the major challenges was our own health, because malaria was I would call it a frequent visitor, unwelcome visitor. So someone or the other in the team, and then after we had children, they would keep falling sick. And at this stage of our work, there was no communication at all.
Even if we go to the neighboring town, there was just a public call office available, only one in the entire town. When that was not working, I had to go to Barharwa, which is 16 kilometers away by motorcycle, leave it there, and if phones don't work, I had to take a train to the next town. So I had to spend a whole day to make a call to my headquarters or to friends and family, or in times of emergency.
I vividly remember, especially with our young children when they were very small, they would be vomiting, running high fever, and we would just be holding them in our arms and wondering whether they would make it till the next day. And those were the times when our calling and faith were really tried. And we would pray, Lord, you are able to help and you are able to heal our children, but Lord, it's in your hands.
And sure enough, the hand of the Lord was upon them, protecting them and providing for them. Slowly but surely, the Malto people began to see God's hand at work.
Over the years, trust has built up, and people have, a few people started seeing the advantage of coming to the hospital. We did our first cesarean almost 10 years after being here. And that particular cesarean was a very dramatic one, and that child was saved surely by the grace of God, because it was a condition where even in a good hospital we might have lost the baby. I remember that it was such a celebration, to see that, wow, at last someone has experienced what we have been telling them all along.
We started seeing increasing number of deliveries, which started from 5 in a year to currently 800 in a year. We realized we needed to have an ultrasonogram, so I was able to attend a training program for ultrasonogram, and that has equipped me as a person, and I am able to cater to the needs of the community.
Today, Prem Jyoti Hospital is well equipped to serve the Malto tribe. God's faithfulness continues to equip this doctor couple who sacrificially serve Him every day.
As a person, I would say it's a holistic development for me. Just coming out of the medical college and medical institution, I knew about healthcare. But coming to a place like this, one needs to know driving, getting to know about generators, construction, getting in touch with the government officials, public relations, spiritual ministry. So it has been a real enriching experience which I would not have had even in 30 years back in my hometown.
The option of earning more money never seemed to fascinate me, because I've experienced a different kind of wealth, the wealth of experiencing God's love among this people group, experiencing miracles, experiencing the joy of saving lives. So I won't exchange this for anything. And my parents were very, very supportive. And my father would always say, God has given you this high calling. We will never, never stand in the way. In fact, right now, he is struggling with cancer. He's struggling with this for a few years now. They're very weak. They really need my help. But even at this point, they send me back with joy. And he would always say, you took a tough decision. No way you're turning back. And no way will we call you back.
It has been 20 years since Dr. Isaac and Dr. Vijila started the work at Prem Jyoti Hospital. Today, a number of younger staff members testify that one reason for them to serve God at Prem Jyoti is because they have been deeply influenced by the lives of Dr. Isaac and Dr. Vijila.